We are all experiencing life. We all have a story. Mine just happens to be visible. And alopecia has empowered me to be able to help others to reframe their life challenges into incredible gifts and opportunities and thrive because of them.
What would life be like for you if you woke up one day and found out you were diagnosed with alopecia, and within a very short time, you lost the hair on your body? This is Mckenna Reitz's story and how she decided not to allow her alopecia to define her and instead decided to define it. Mckenna talks with us about how she turned her diagnosis into a gift of vulnerability and courage, and how we all can reframe life's challenges into gifts of opportunity and not allow fear to hold us back. Wouldn't we all like to create change in our lives? These compelling and extraordinary conversations can help you make better life choices. I'm Terry Yoffe, executive career and business coach and founder of Try Coaching. Welcome, Mckenna Reitz. It is such a pleasure, and I say that so sincerely, to have you here today and have a conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an incredible opportunity just to be here with you and be able to, just be surrounded by incredible women like you.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Mckenna, tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Wow, that's a long story to really start off with, but my entire life, I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I grew up with my mother being a teacher and seeing the impact she had on her students, the teachers that impacted me. And so my whole life, I always prepared and had my life set out that I was going to teach for 30, 35 years and then retire. And that's exactly what I did is I went into teaching. I taught AP psychology, coach varsity volleyball, have an incredible husband, 2 daughters, the white picket fence life, we will say. And after I had our youngest, Maddox, in 2015, within just 3 weeks, I lost all of my hair. Within just a week, I remember standing in a shower with my hands full of hair and not knowing what was happening and discovering that I was diagnosed with the autoimmune disease alopecia, which attacks your hair follicles and causes your hair to fall out. And through that dark storm of losing my hair, what I have learned is that we are all experiencing life. We all have a story. Mine just happens to be visible. And alopecia has empowered me to be able to help others to reframe their life challenges into incredible gifts and opportunities and thrive because of them, as I've been able to do over the past 7 years. And so I actually just resigned from teaching after 18 years in order to move beyond the classroom and empower beyond the classroom and help others to understand that they're not alone on their journey, because most people get to hide behind a beautiful smile with hiding their story. And I have an incredible opportunity to be able to share my story and understand that the impact that it has on others.
What a beautiful story, really. Very heartfelt. So from the time you knew you had alopecia to the time you made a choice to be a empowerment motivational speaker, what was that span for you? And what brought you to that place? Because I'm going to guess it. Once your hair started falling out, you didn't think about, this is where I'm going.
As females, we identify with their hair subconsciously. We have never said, my name's Mckenna Reitz and I am my hair. We've never said that in our life, but we subconsciously always identify and always are concerned about our hair and how it represents us. And I was always known for my hair. And so when my hands were full of hair, I didn't know how I was going to continue living, because I had been known as this specific person, looked like this specific person, acted like this specific person. And I didn't know how I was going to be that person anymore. I was concerned, how am I going to be a mom to 2 beautiful little girls? How was I going to be a teacher? How was I going to be a coach? Is my husband still going to love me even though I look different? And so it was a very, very dark storm that I'm forever grateful for. You know, we have to go through the dark storms in order to see the light and to experience the light and to understand that light happens. It's going to happen. We have to go through that dark storm. And so, you know, I surrounded myself with people that were there for me, that loved me unconditionally, hair or no hair. I was vulnerable of sharing my story, of sharing little tidbits of how I was feeling, which over time enabled me from going from 7 to 7 days of the week being terrible to then 6, then to 5. And every day started just getting a little bit easier and easier. And then I started to learn that and feel that alopecia was giving me my purpose of bringing awareness for alopecia and advocating, which showed me that I'm not just advocating and bringing awareness for alopecia, but I'm advocating for the masses, for those who don't have a voice or don't feel like they have a voice. And what I've actually learned is that alopecia didn't give me my purpose. It's always been there. I've just been in my own way of being able to see what my true purpose in this world is. And alopecia just showed me what I'm supposed to be doing in this world.
There are no words. So really, you're so expressive. Did you ever consider in the early stages of getting a wig, of covering up your baldness?
To be honest, I did. And I did for the first year, I did not go out of the house or even be sitting here or even go to bed without a hat on. I didn't allow my family members, my husband, my daughters, even myself to see my own reflection in the mirror because I was so ashamed and embarrassed of how I looked. And so I did because I wanted to blend in. I wanted to be able to go to the grocery store and not be stared at, not to be asked, am I going through treatment? I just wanted to live a quote unquote normal life. And so I did. I felt as though I hid for a little bit. And it was something that I needed to do in order to get through that dark storm. And then eventually I made the decision to define alopecia and walk out bald. And it was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. But what I've learned is that I'm still standing. I survived it. And it actually allowed me to stand a little bit taller because this is me. And I'm proud of my reflection. And it's amazing that it took me almost 40 years of my life and losing every strand of hair in my body to finally discover true self-love and to love my own reflection. And so I want to empower my own daughters to love their reflection at their young age that allow them to stand tall for the rest of their lives and to fight the dark storms, to understand that there is light.
I mean, your words, they just hit home, not just for me, but for everybody, because, you see people with handicaps and some are out there. There's an actress, and I don't know her name. She's in a wheelchair. And I forget her name. She was in Oklahoma. And yet there she is on a stage, being willing to be out there with her handicap. It's commendable, really. And I say that from my heart, that you collectively, as you said, those that don't allow their issues to define them, go out in the world and do something. Probably that's not the norm. However, it's just amazing to me, really. I don't really know what to say, and I'm never at a loss for words, really, because it's just so profound. So you were teaching. What made you decide to leave the teaching profession, which you thought you would do, you became, and did that for so long and loved it? What was that defining moment when you said, I'm leaving teaching and going to take my message to a bigger platform?
I don't think there was just one specific time. It was just a gradual thing of me refocusing my lenses on what I want to do for the rest of my life and the impact that I want to have on this world. And, going into the psychology world, Erik Erikson says that we go through 8 different crises in life. And I'm at the stage of generativity versus stagnation. And I feel as though I accomplished what I needed to do and beyond in the classroom. I had great success. My students changed my life, and they were there for me during my very dark time of life. They've empowered me beyond measure. It's time for me to teach beyond the walls, the 4 walls of my classroom. And little by little, I could feel myself fire burning in different ways. When I'm on stage and having conversations with you, that's where my fire just burns. And I wanted to, continue to have that impact, but at a bigger level. And the only way I could do that is to take the leap of faith. And taking a leap of faith is very scary, but if you never take that leap, you never know if you can fly. And so with the support of my husband and my family, lots of long conversations of making sure that we can make it work financially and with healthcare, I made that decision that it's time. I've accomplished what I need to do in the classroom, and it's time to move on.
Well, as you said, one chapter ended. You had accomplished what you wanted, from your vision to become a teacher to becoming a teacher and doing it profoundly for a very long time. And now kind of a new chapter opened up where you're able to go with that. So talk a little bit about getting on a bigger stage, what that's like. I know you were on the Jennifer Hudson show. How did that come about? And how are you maneuvering and making your way to the bigger stages?
It's learning to have conversations, the hard conversations, the easy conversations, and it's about making connections with others, putting yourself out there, not being afraid to ask, because what's the worst people can say? No, thank you very much for your time. And, you move on to the next one. And sometimes it's a no for right now, but it could be a yes for later. But, it's about just making that connection. And that's exactly what I did a year ago this month. I somehow came across the executive producer for the Jennifer Hudson show. She had just gotten the position. I just shot her an email congratulating her and told her I would love to share my story. And, after a few phone calls, I got in touch with one of their producers. And then in January, I got a phone call saying, can you be here on Thursday? And in the teaching, because I was a teacher, I couldn't be there on Thursday. I couldn't just take the day off. And so I had to work around where I could get a day off to be able to be there. But it's all about just continuously sharing your story. And it's, also putting in the work. It takes work. Things aren't just going to happen. I'm all about manifestation. I'm all about believing that abundance will flow through me easily. But you also have to, 1, believe in your purpose, believe in yourself, put it out into the universe. But it also takes time and nurturing of those connections and those relationships that we are continually doing, of learning, how can I be a support of you? And that is, it's not what can you do for me, but it's what can I do for you that allows those connections to grow at such a deeper level.
So talk about what you're doing now on these bigger stages and how you feel about doing it.
I feel alive. I have never felt this alive before, knowing that I am living my purpose. And so on stage, I get to tell my story, share my story. But I also, because of my years of teaching, it has enabled me to learn how to make those connections with my students and then my attendees, to be able to feel the energy when you walk into that room, to be able to learn what are the objectives, what are the goals of the event, of the conference, of the summit, and how I am able to engage the audience in such a way that they feel that I am speaking to them as an individual, even though there's 1,000 people in front of me. And that's the ultimate goal, is to reach as many people as possible. And I feel that, because of my story being visible, I can connect with people because people are hiding their stories every single day. And they're able to introspect upon what they've been through, what they're going through, and be able to take a step back and really reflect upon, can I find the silver linings in my life challenges right now? Even if it's just traffic, how can we reframe that mindset of it's out of my control, but what's always in my control is my attitude about the situation. And so when I can challenge them to really discover what they are and are not in control over in their life challenge, it empowers them to reframe that life challenge. And I know when they walk out of that room, they stand taller and they have a different mindset.
So of the people that you talk to, how many kind of come up to you at the end and hug you, kiss you, throw their arms around you and say, thank you so much. You have shifted something for me. Does that happen?
It does. It does. And it's an incredible feeling knowing that you are making an impact, from women who have experienced hair loss or alopecia to, having the hidden story, the hidden challenge, and everything in between, and from males to females and everything in between. It's an incredible feeling that I'm living my purpose. And as I'm doing it, I am inspiring others.
You said women, do you work? Is there male also involved in this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I speak to both males and females. I don't just focus on women. I'm all about women empowerment, and I love speaking with women, but I know I also have the ability to help out men, because men need just as much help with reframing their life challenges as women do. And so my goal is to help as many people as possible.
Like you, I have always been willing to go out on that ledge and ask for something. It's even when I started my podcast 1.5 years ago, a light bulb had gone off. I've been coaching for 20 years and I want to do something else. I want to have a voice on a bigger stage, yes, about creating change. And those that come to talk to me about creating change, that's very important for me. That's my purpose and that's my mission in life. And I'm older people shouldn't have to retire with nothing or feel that their life is over, right? So this is my stage, if you will, to help others that listen. How can they create change? And you are creating change in so many ways. So aside from being a motivational speaker, what else are you doing other than speaking?
So I am also a coach. I played volleyball in college. My husband coaches college volleyball. I coach varsity volleyball. Sports are a part of our lives. And so I also work with athletic teams to be able to, kind of a preseason, middle of season, and postseason. Because again, we can't teach our own kids to swim. It's sometimes the same thing with coaches. You need to hear it from another perspective. And so working with teams to focus on what is the ultimate objective. Is it a social objective or is it a task objective? But then also focusing on the mindset of the athlete, focusing on more positivity than negativity, because there's so much pressure on athletes these days, getting the scholarship, of winning. And I'm a coach that I don't coach for wins and losses. I coach to empower these young women that come into my program at 14 years old, that when they leave at 18 and graduate from high school, they're stronger mentally, emotionally, and physically, that they can stand on their own 2 feet. And so I want to bring that, and I do bring that into other athletic programs and really challenge them to focus on what's the objective and how do we put a plan of attack into it.
And is this for women or boys, girls, both?
Yep. Any athletic teams. Yep.
And is this through school or in your area?
So it's working with high school teams, college teams within my area and beyond.
Have you ever thought, and I'm putting you on the spot for a minute, have you ever thought, since you were a teacher, teaching on some level, not in students, but people that want to have that same drive, that same sense of self, loving yourself? Have you thought about kind of creating classes?
I haven't yet, but it's been in the back of my mind. I'm focusing on the speaking aspect right now. And then the goal is to continuously start to implement courses like that to be able to continue empowering the masses in many different ways.
Because so many people don't love themselves, right? So many. And, as a coach, I have found that the underlying issue with everybody, I don't care who you are, that underlying deep, deep issue is self-worth and self-value. And it's one thing when you don't have an issue, but if you do, that only multiplies how one feels. And certainly for you, again, I'm guessing, is how you felt before your alopecia, and then having to look in the mirror and really redefining who you are and do you love yourself? I'm guessing that might have been a journey for you.
Oh, to say the least. To say the least, and even when my hair was beautiful and I still didn't love my reflection. And, as females, we go, and then now you throw in social media and you throw in societal expectations now, because we're constantly surrounded by those pressures. And that's why I want to be the face of empowerment, that when I walk through the grocery store, when people see me out in public, that I'm standing tall. I hope it empowers them that they too can stand tall through their challenges.
Because you so often, especially cancer, especially women who have chemo, I don't know very many that go bald, right? They'll wear a wig or they'll wear a scarf or they'll wear something to hide the fact that they are bald. Like, here's an example of a Mckenna Reitz that goes into a grocery store, goes into a shopping mall, a department store, and I can imagine the stares that you get. And I'm guessing people think, oh my God, poor thing, she must have cancer.
All the time.
Or people might even come up to you. Who knows what people do?
Oh, they do.
They don't get it.
Yep.
So in your world, even though you've started it, what is you think you want to leave as a legacy?
I hope that when people think of me, it's helping others, that it is all the small things that we can do for others are going to have such a significant impact. Just opening the doors for people, saying thank yous, allowing them to go ahead of in front of you in a line. But that's my legacy. My legacy is to how can we help another person? And, I started a toy drive 8 years ago for the Toledo Children's Hospital. And when we go shopping, and we've been going to shop, my daughters and I go shopping at the store, they always say, instead of saying, I want a toy for myself, we say, can we buy this for the toy drive? And it's teaching the philanthropy. It's teaching how to take care of others at any point of the day. And so that's my legacy, that I hope that I'm leaving my classroom and I'm leaving from my high school, and that will continue on through my daughter's legacies.
I was reading one of your Facebook posts, how it was one morning and one of your daughters said to you, oh, Mommy, you look so beautiful. What more could somebody ask for?
Correct. And that was without eyelashes. And that was me without wearing eyelashes or having any makeup on. And we need that in our lives, and having my daughters has been my why, my entire, this entire journey of showing them that we can love ourselves and that we need to celebrate adversity and diversity, because they go to school, they see it every single day, and you have to be not only accepting of it, but supportive and celebrating it. And it doesn't matter what you look like, how tall you are, what color skin or hair or no hair, you respect every person that you come into contact with. And when my daughter just tells me I'm beautiful, sometimes, we get in our own damn way, and hearing that come from a little voice of an 8-year-old is everything.
Absolutely. And how did they respond when you lost your hair?
So my youngest was only 4 months old, so she doesn't ever remember me with hair. And my oldest was 3. And
we very young.
Yeah. So I believe that my 3-year-old, because you're around the time of being able to create long-term memories, was going to remember it. And so I would never cry in front of my daughter, because because what if alopecia happens to them? What if they start losing their hair? I need them to see how their mom went through it and was able to stand on her own 2 feet, and they can too. But what I've learned is that my oldest doesn't remember me having hair either. All they remember me is this. And I do remember when my oldest went to kindergarten, she had to draw a picture of her family. And I'm still in the earlier years of my journey, and she drew me bald. And I had to run out of the room, and I just lost it, because that's how she sees me, because I couldn't see myself that way. And now I love whenever my daughters draw me and they draw me bald, and it makes me so proud, because they're proud. And that's it. It's telling me that I'm doing something right as a mom.
It's the conversation, your story is just amazing. It's inspirational for all of us and empowering. And I'm going to make a very bold statement that you're going to go on. This is your purpose. This is your passion, and certainly your life's path, to be a voice for thriving and not letting whatever is going on get in the way of your becoming or being who you are.
Thank you. That means the world.
Mckenna, what's one thing you can add, even though you've said amazing, I use that word and I hate it, great things. What's one thing you can add to the people that are listening from your experience? One tidbit.
I always go back to a quote that I live by. The problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. And we have to understand that there are many things in our lives that are out of our control. And we have to stop wasting that energy on things that are out of our control and focus on what we always have control over. It's our mindset. It's our attitude towards it. And it's contagious. And it's going to uplift others and continue on.
Absolutely. It's all about shifting your mindset, right? We don't have control over anything except how we come to things. And with that, thank you so much for bringing your story to our conversation. Certainly extraordinary work, creating change, being who you are, and going out every day, empowering those that you can about thriving. Thank you so much, Mckenna. This has been beyond beautiful.
Thank you for this incredible conversation and for the conversations you're having about creating change. You are changing the world.
I'm hoping one person at a time.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining the conversation. For related content on extraordinary work, visit my website, trycoaching.com. I'll be back in 2 weeks with another conversation. If you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and be sure to subscribe to future podcasts so you don't miss an episode. Always remember, when you work with passion and purpose, your work can become extraordinary. Whatever you thought you knew about Gen Z, please put it aside and listen as my next guest, Brielle Wohlenhaus, who at 22 years old has become a voice for her generation and is talking about empowering young individuals to unlock their full potential by making wise decisions, rising above peer pressure, creating goals, and forging ahead. You'll definitely not want to miss what Brielle has to say.